Have you ever felt like you had a deal and you were just so close to getting this seller to sign the contract? The next thing you know, they just ghost you. I'm gonna tell you exactly why that happens every time in this video. We've all had it happen to us, right? If you skip this step, this is going to happen every single time. The step that you're missing is the influencer step, right? Some refer to it as a black swan, but it's somebody who is helping the seller make a decision. Right, so somebody who's helping your seller make a decision on who they should sell this property to, how much they should sell this property, if they should sell the property at all, right? And there's so many times where we're on the phone with sellers and we're having great conversations, we're negotiating terms, and we come back all excited because this person verbally agreed to us, and next thing you know, on our next call, we go to sign the contract, and next thing you know, I need to speak to my husband, I need to speak to my wife, I need to speak to my attorney, I need to speak to my nephew who's a realtor, blah, 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 right? It's always somebody else, right? And we need to be able to discover and figure out who that person is, identify if there is another influencer, and if there is, let's invite them onto the call, right? Because you're not going to close that deal regardless. I don't care who you are. If there's somebody else and you're calling a seller out of the blue, right? You don't know this person from Eve, right? You don't know this person from nothing. And this person has no clue who you are. You just met them on the phone. And they have a trusted advisor, somebody that they've known their whole life or for years, and they give them advice regularly. Do you think that they're honestly going to make a decision with you on the phone right away without talking to that person? Right? No, they're not. You're not going to get that deal. So if there's an attorney or a husband, a spouse, somebody, you need to be able to figure out who that is and bring them onto the call. Right? Bring them into the conversation. Like, we need to identify all the influencers before we provide a solution. You're just going to waste your breath, right? And what happens if, let's say especially if you're going to speak terms, right? I've seen this happen so many times when people negotiate in terms or creative finance with sellers, and they go through this whole presentation with the seller. Maybe it's a wife or somebody else, right? And they go through the whole presentation. They explain all the ins and outs of terms. And they say, okay, great. I'm going to go back and explain this to my wife now. And what's going to happen? Every single time, they're just going to mess it up. They're just going to botch it, right? I even tell the sellers sometimes, it's like playing the game telephone, right? Where you start with one phrase, you go down the line, everybody tells the secret down the line. By the time you get to the end of the line, it's a completely different phrase than you started with, right? And the sellers usually get that, right? And they understand, but your job is to identify who this person is before you even get into that, before you even get into the solution, right? And we want to bring them onto the call. The way that we approach asking this question, right? A lot of people ask this question really weird. Like, they're like, who are the other decision makers? Like, it's just weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be smooth, right? So I like to ask this question right after they paint the picture for me, and right after they tell me everything that they want to happen that goes good for this property, right? So whether they want $300,000 for this house so they can move to a beach and do whatever, right? So I'll say something like, okay, so if somebody could come in and get you $300,000 so you can move across the country, get to the beach that you want to get to, who else do we need to bring on to this call before we can agree to something, before we can get to an agreement? Right? That's a lot more smooth than who are the decision makers, right? Like, that's corny. We don't want to say that. So be smooth with it, and we want to pull out who are the decision makers and who is going to be helping them. And they may even say, oh, no, nobody. I make the decisions, right? You want to double down on that. You want to ask twice, right? So once they tell you, no, I'm the decision maker, I'm the one who makes the decisions. Okay, so if we come up to an agreement, you wouldn't need to bring an attorney, a wife, a friend, a relative. You don't have to bring nobody in to go through this contract, go through this paperwork with you to make sure that everything is good, and get them to confirm, right? Get them to say yes or no, right? And if they need to bring somebody on, let's identify who that person is and say, great, I'd love to talk to them as well. You may be thinking that us asking for who the decision makers is too pushy, or we're being too nosy or getting in their business, but it's essential, right? This step is going to save you. You are going to grow gray hairs if you skip this step. I'm telling you, you are going to start sending contracts out. You're going to go underwrite deals. You're going to go tell your family that you got a deal coming up. And next thing you know, you never heard from this person again because you didn't identify the other decision makers, the other influencers. And when you want to go talk to Grace about buying her house on terms, and she went back to her husband and told her, oh, there's a great idea that this young guy offered me on over the phone to buy this house on terms. And her husband says, oh, that's a scam. Don't ever talk to him again. Right now, and you'll never know. You'll never hear from them again. You'll never talk to them again. Somebody else is going to come through and somebody will understand, somebody like me or my team will understand that we need to bring on every single decision maker, every other person who's going to influence this person's decision, this person's selling this house, right? Who is going to help them play a part in that? And we bring them onto the call and we don't move forward. We don't send paperwork. We don't talk numbers until everybody's on this call and everybody's on the same page. It's going to save you so much time, so much energy, so much effort. This is a big transaction, right? Most people only buy or sell 1 or 2 houses in their lifetime, right? So put yourself in their shoes. If you were selling this house and you're making one of the biggest decisions that you've ever had to make in your life, wouldn't you bring somebody on that you trust, who understands the process, who has maybe done real estate before, if you know them, right? Wouldn't you bring them on to help guide you and just look something over and tell you that you're doing the right thing, right? This is how most sellers think, right? So if they have somebody, they're most likely going to bring them into the conversation, talk to them about it, and make sure that they're doing the right thing. So you need to get ahead of that, jump in front of it, and invite them into the conversation. Lean into that, invite them into the conversation, and watch how many more deals you close. If you think this will provide value to somebody, make sure you share this video with them. Like the video, drop a comment. I'll see you on the next one. We're going to be talking about how to dig deep and find the actual problem. I'll see you next time. Peace.